Hi, Rebound Struggle listeners. I'm so excited today to have my guest here, amazing woman. Uh, she is a she was a star student, won multiple awards. She worked in corporate tax department in one of the leading U.S. bank before deciding to build her own business. She is a woman with determinations. She is a woman who refuses to accept impossibility, but instead push through to make her visions into reality. She is a woman who defy the odds. So welcome, my friends, Diamond Rodriguez. Hi,
Thank you.
Diamond.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Same here. So excited to have you here. So great. So Diamond and I are a member of this amazing group, the Inner Circle from the Menti podcast. And I was recommended by our common friends, Michelle and Michelle Marshall, to talk to Diamonds. Yeah, Diamond, so great to have you here, and I'm so excited. I start. Oh, Diamond, I know interesting fact. Maybe this is not nothing new for people about the fact between diamonds and graphite. You know that actually diamond and graphite is formed from the same exact materials. It's formed from carbon, but they have different properties, right? Diamond is hard, tough, one of the hardest materials on earth, while graphite or carbon, coal or charcoal is black, fragile. Yeah, and diamond expensive. People wear it in using it as jewelry. It's brilliant, while carbon is dark. So I think they came from same materials, carbon, exactly the same material, exactly the same atom. So what makes it different? You know, the carbon was structured in these two materials. The carbon structures in graphite is just a linear chain of carbons, which is make it easy to break. And also how it's formed, like diamond actually was formed in very tough environment, formed at high temperatures, high pressures in the earth mantle. So I have three things which I think is interesting. Hopefully, it's also interesting for the
Yeah.
listeners also. So what I learned from this, right? One is every one of us has the capacity to become great. So every one of us are the same basically. Inside, we are the same. So we are meant to be greatness, to become great. So just like graphite, right? Diamond is made from the same material or same atom. So we have that potential. Second, it will take process, even difficult process, to make us become better or become great. Just like diamond, it was formed in very difficult environment, high temperature, high pressure environments. So third, we need to structure our life. The difference between diamond and graphite is how is the structures of the atom in these two materials, right? In graphite, it's just a linear, but if you want to become diamond, you need to surround yourself, connect with more, not just the one on your left or the one on your right. Connect to more people. Surround yourself with the people who are already in the place you want to be or are moving towards to with the same goal. So that's my three things. Hopefully it's not so long, but I guess I was so excited with Diamond, your name. So there you go.
I actually like that. And it actually just mirrors a lot of what I had to do. So that was a perfect metaphor for what we're going to talk about.
I read your site also, and I think we are pretty much in line. We have the same theme of overcoming difficulties and become better, become great after that. So, okay, let's start. Diamond, what gets you excited this week?
Well, this week I'm excited because I have an opportunity to or you want to know what I'm grateful for?
Yep.
Yes. What I'm grateful for is I thank God every day that I can walk because when there was a time when I doubted that, just the ability, every time I wake up, I'm reminded when I put my feet on the floor that I'm walking, and that's exciting. So that's something I'm always grateful for every day. The other thing I'm grateful for is my circle, the circle of people that I surround myself right now. They're uplifting, they're encouraging, and it just, when you wake up knowing that you have that kind of backing behind you, you feel like there's nothing you can't do. And the third thing, of course, is my family. I'm a big family-oriented person, and having those individuals in my pocket, I'm extremely grateful for that.
Thank you for that. Let's jump into your lowest point. I know you have quite a big challenge, right? You are diagnosed with autoimmune disease, which led to you're not able to walk. And I'll let you tell the story. So take us back to that time and share with us.
Well, it became my lowest point because of the person I was before it started to happen. I mean, before it started to happen, I was in school. I started business for myself. I was working in the corporate arena, and I discovered it wasn't for me. And I had a lot of energy. You know, I saw so many opportunities, so many possibilities, went into business for myself, and then I noticed that I started to get symptoms. And I didn't know what it was. And so when I went to the doctor, they diagnosed me with an autoimmune condition. And this is many years ago, so they don't have the kind of resources that they have now.
So what symptoms, what do you feel at the time which get you notice, that maybe I should go to the doctor?
Well, I started to lose the ability to use one of my arms. Mm-hmm. It was swelling up. It was in a lot of pain, and it didn't subside. And then that spread to the other arm, and then it started to spread to my feet and to my other foot. So it was like my extremities were being affected. Mm-hmm. And the lifestyle I was living and the business structure that I was working in at the time required a lot of physical movement. I was doing a lot of presentations at the time, so I had to carry my board or my laptop or whatever it is I was going to present, and I was meeting with different people. And so it was very performance driven, and it became very difficult to keep that going. Mm. And it was a struggle because I was really good at it. I achieved success very quickly when I started business for myself. And even though I had a team of people that I was working with, I had my clients, I even had several mentors. I had come to the point where I ended up not being able to walk. I mean, I pretty much, my body started to degrade to the point where my muscles had completely atrophied. I mean, I couldn't really use my extremities. So I had.
How fast it happens from this time you realize until you completely lose your mobility?
Well, it took me 2 years to finally get a diagnosis, and in that time it was, it was starting to decline. And then once I had the diagnosis, I would say within 1 year, I ended up not being able to walk. Wow. And it was difficult because I did the conventional medicines. They had, at that time, with my condition, they would have you on 12 different types of medication. Mm-hmm. And it was pain, swelling, and to stop the attack, that's happening in the body. But none of it worked on me. I even did the injections, the works. And none of it worked. So it was really frustrating because I'm doing what they recommended. I even took the steroids, everything. And they had medications they had me on that were the equivalent to cancer drugs that they give cancer patients. And none of it worked. And so I became a little restless, and I started to ask questions. And I remember one time I was at a clinic for my feet while I was doing hydrotherapy. And I asked one of the doctors there, and I said to him, "Is there anything I can do?" And he looked at me and said, "There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. That you're going to be deformed." I mean, he basically laid out the situation that I would never regain access to my feet. I would never walk again. Wow. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah. I was already doubting if I can walk again. I mean, I had so much pain, and when you have a lot of pain and it doesn't quit, you get consumed by it. That's your only focus. I had to give up the business I was in to decide to focus on my health because it was hard to balance both. And then I did that. So when he said that, I was like, oh my God. But then I realized I was at a pivotal point in my life at that time. I can either accept what he said and just give up or just not quit. And I decided not to give up. Because if I gave up, what else would there be? What other choice was there? So, after that, I stopped the convention.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, you have that courage to, they're the medical expert, but you said, no, I'm not going to accept this because, well, I just couldn't live if it's like that. So what can I do? Yeah, great.
Yeah. So that's where I was. And hearing that from an expert, it's just like, it's basically just writing an early grave, because what else, if I were to give up, that's all that would happen.
Yep.
So I made a decision that I was going to find a way. And I became my best student of myself. I did a lot of research. And I had my struggles because even though I tried the holistic approach and I tried so many different things, none of it worked. None of it worked. And what was the biggest, I guess you can say, enlightenment moment that I experienced was that I realized I was focusing on the wrong thing. Because when it comes to healing, I later discovered that there needs to be an alignment between your mind, your body, and your soul. And it started for me spiritually. I needed to find myself spiritually. Once I found myself spiritually, things started to fall together. Like they started to just come together, because going from where I had all this doubt, I was doing this and I was doing that, but I had doubt. I had to believe in something more than myself, because I had limiting belief, but something more didn't. Yeah. So that's when I had to come and I started to look at scriptures and find myself spiritually and connect with that and make peace with it. And then the realization started to come that I had emotional barriers preventing these healings from happening. And then I started researching, finding out different ways I can overcome
what exactly
that.
Emotional barriers you have?
Well, I discovered through because how you hear Tony Robbins talks about we all have patterns that we pick up along the way. I discovered through my past that I dealt with some emotional childhood neglect, and it was not abuse or anything like that. It just happened it easily can happen as a middle child. And when the first child and the last child, they have medical situations that require a lot of focus, then it just kind of leaves the middle child out of it. Now, that wasn't the real problem. The real problem is what I dealt with: isolation. I was not allowed to socialize, and it wasn't a punishment. It was more of a protective, like I was raised in a really protective traditional household. So that lack of being able to socialize as an extrovert, I couldn't use the phone. There was a pattern, and there was and then I didn't have that kind of circle at home to go to because there were other focus. So it created a barrier between me and people, and with me and myself. And I later discovered that because I started on that path, that I found myself spiritually, and I started like pulling at different things and looking into like the Tony Robbins programs and really asking myself. I became the Sherlock Holmes of my emotions, questioning everything. What does that stem for? Why do I do that? And I started researching and looking with situation with therapists, and that came up, and I checked and I had all of the symptoms of that, and I said, oh my God, that's what it was. And it gave me peace. So I first made peace spiritually, and then I made peace emotionally, because I found the source of a pattern that I needed to break. And then that's when I started to say, how do I break this pattern? And I went once in the books and talking to people who have overcome similar situations. And then I walked on that path, and that liberated me to the point where now that I can go to the physical with the nutrition, the supplements, any kind of special medication, that actually started working after that. So,
right. Diamond, so tell us exactly what you did or to break this emotional barrier.
Well, with childhood mental neglect, I did neuroscience I self-educated myself in that with NLP. A lot of it came from a program that Tony Robbins has. I don't even know if it's still available, but it was one of the very first programs he put together. It was called Unlimited Power, and he really dives deep. Now, I know that they have many practitioners now and certification that people can do, but many years ago, that wasn't a big thing as it is now. And so when I actually, that's how I met my husband. He introduced me to NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah. Yes. And I applied a lot of the techniques on myself, and I found that sense of relief. And then things still started coming up. It's like once you start addressing one emotional issue, once it's discovered and you have awareness on it, and you put you're completely mindful of now that you're balancing that area about yourself, things starts to come up. And it was like a domino effect, like, oh, okay, the biggest discovery was my personality wasn't my personality. It was patterns that I had picked up along the way. And then now I had to pick and choose which one is genuinely me and which one is from a situation of trauma or a negative experience or something like that. And so when I started to like fine tune and really hone in on those problems and find a technique like the NLP, for instance, in that scenario, then it was just something that I learned from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I listed out these new habits, the person that I wanted to be, the person I saw myself to be, and I did something that's called a definite chief. It's called a DMPS. It's a statement where you write out your goals and then you repeat it daily, and you do it several times a day. And you have to structure it a certain way where it's powerful and in the present tense. And I did that. And then I would take a moment at sometimes during the day and visualize it, because the mind can't determine what's real or not. And once you revisit that picture over and over, it's like your being will try to manifest that. All of a sudden, it's not that hard to get up and take your medication on time or do what you have to do, because your mind believes that that's reality, and now it needs to align reality with what you're visualizing constantly. So that's what started working for me. I was connecting with that. And so that I did that. And then
how do you maintain your consistency? I mean, my biggest challenge sometimes also with this is basically, I got excited. They start for a week, then after that it's just die down. So I want to learn. How do you maintain consistency?
There was two things that I did for that. The first thing is I wanted to walk, so I was motivated. So my why was big, and the technique that Napoleon Hill teaches, that continues that. It creates a momentum in that area that you don't have to try to do it. You just do it. Once you consistently every day, at least twice a day, you repeat it's like I call it more than an affirmation, because it's powerful. You're speaking into existence what you relentlessly want. And and this is the part where another study I did on right brain and left brain, the analytical side, the sequential side, all that's on the left brain. And there's something that happens when you do an activity and you engage the left and the right. There's something that chemically happens to you that it just magnifies the results. And so with that DMPS, that statement that I made, I'm looking at it logically, I'm reading it, but when I attach the emotion, because the emotion stems from the right side of the brain, every time I connected both, it just created like a vibration. It created momentum in that area. So even though I may not want to do it, I did it. It was like it became a habit that way, out of that connection. And I call it more of that alignment between the mind, body, and soul, because that connection, because the subconscious stems from the right, that connection that you don't have control over, and the spirituality behind it connects when you engage over and over and over. And I think that's where that vibration comes in, and it's developed, and and then things just to start to manifest. And to understand what I'm saying, when you do this, you'll start to see things happen that you have no control of. Like all of a sudden, a person would call me, hey, you need to call this person. They can give you free acupuncture, and things just started happening, and opportunities started presenting themselves. And even though I was probably working on this, other things was coming, like to pull me in this direction, and it was the right direction because little by little, I got therapy, I got help, I got the support I needed, I got everything that I needed to get me to that point. And I think it happened when I first worked on myself. I broke my mental barriers, and then it allowed things to emerge because now I don't have any walls up. So those walls were put down, and now opportunity was able to come in and present itself. And then physically also, I cleansed, I detoxed my environment. I detoxed the negative people. I detoxed even in my household, because sometimes you go home and there might be something that's gnawing at you, whether it's a chair that's out of place, or your clothes, or something that's really, really, really out of place. And every time you see it, you're like, ugh, but you dismiss it because you're like, oh, I'll get to it later. I started fixing that because that impacts you also. It's like you absorb that. So what I was looking for was peace. Like if I go home, I needed peace. When I'm dealing with a situation, even though it's negative, I can find the peace in that and be grateful for it. Like put yourself in a situation where nothing can stress you, even though things are stressing you, but you find that space that you can kind of tolerate it in the sense where it doesn't take away from your peace. Then you're in a state of mind where you can be more aware of what's going on around you and notice those opportunities that's coming your way. So with those three areas, I feel like once they were aligned, everything just felt effortless. Even though it was still hard, it just felt easier.
So start with spirituals, then emotional with your NLP practice, then start your physical surroundings, like maybe cleaning up your things around you which maybe distract you or make your environment more comfortable or peaceful for you. Great.
Yes.
So who helped you throughout this process?
Well, my higher source definitely was my foundation, God. And I have to tell you, like, through that experience, me finding myself spiritually, I was reminded that we are all designed for greatness. And it's almost inappropriate if we don't make sure we live that, Yeah. And we don't have to earn it. It's already in us. Yeah. So it was having that standard raised. So that experience gave me the opportunity to connect to who my being is. So connecting with God was me connecting with myself also. And then also my husband, he had a situation when he was younger that he dealt with, that he overcame, and hearing his story and how he overcame it, and doctors didn't know what was going on, and he was able to walk away from it and saying, by my birthday, I'm going to be fine. And that's exactly what happened. Like his mental focus was amazing. So I was inspired by him to let that really helped me know that no matter what the doctors say, that my future is really up to me based on what I'm willing to let go and accept. So my husband was a big contributor to that. And then just over time, I developed a team of people that were just amazing, that they had unconditional love and support. And that is so important when you're going through a struggle, even if it's just one person, because it just gives you hope and it lets you know everything's going to be fine.
Describe to us the recovery process. I know it's not also happen instantaneously also, right? It takes process. And for you, it takes 9-10 years to actually be able to start walking again. So describe to us, maybe take us to your journey. Maybe you can highlight some of your struggle during that time.
Well, my recovery process, even though I was in a chair for that long, my recovery process happened towards the end. Oh. And because the majority of the time I was in depression, I had anxiety, I had so much self-doubt, even though I was doing things and I couldn't figure it out. But like I said, once that connected, when I connected with myself spiritually, things just started happening as a domino. And it was, I would say, like around 2009. It's just like, once that happened, I became aware. Like, it's like I woke up from this sleep and I started to see, oh, okay, what's going on? And that point between making that connection spiritually and making that connection with myself, my emotional barriers, that took months. And it was because of the work I was doing. It's not like it just miraculously happened. Once I became aware, I went to work. I started researching. I started talking to people. I started talking to people who had my condition and were fine, because that actually happens. Sometimes people are diagnosed.
How do you find these people?
Well,
I'm pretty sure back then also maybe it's not like now Facebook group or what.
Yeah.
So describe to us how do you approach these people? I guess we all need support, and I just want to learn from your experience. How do you reach out to these people and learn from them also?
Well, before I made that connection spiritually, and I mentioned spiritually because that's what started the whole domino, I had such a difficult time reaching out to people and talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
But once I just started taking action, and then I made that alignment started to happen within me. It's like the information came available to, all of a sudden I'm talking to someone and I tell them, oh yeah, because I'm dealing with this. He was like, oh yeah, I had that. I stopped eating this and this and it went away. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was not like I was doing the work, but because I was doing the work, because I made that connection, it's like God or the universe, as some people say, put the things within my reach. So I guess I can say for anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you want to find the people, if you're looking for the support, just look for it and be diligent about it. Be relentless about it. Don't give up, and you'll find it. And you'll find it or it'll come to you.
Yeah. So your recovery happens towards the end, right? Yeah. 2009. Then.
Yeah, that's when I had to learn how to walk again, and I looked at my wheelchair and I never looked back. And it was an interesting experience because being in a wheelchair for that long, and sometimes I had to crawl to get around, and sometimes my friends carried me from place to place. I kind of lost the sense of walking. I mean, it was over 10 years. I say 10 years because that's when I had the wheelchair, but it was more like 12 years that I couldn't walk. So when I started walking, I felt so powerful. Because I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking. And I wasn't fully walking at the time. I had a limp and things like that. But I was walking like 2 legs without, and I had crutches. Sometimes I had to use the crutches because it was a process. It was not like I just popped up and said, hey, I'm here. But when I started doing that, like I said, I continued to go to work. I continued to improve myself. I've read so many books. Like in 1 year, I read over 100 books. And I'm not talking about breezing through books. I'm talking about reading it 3 times and digesting it and applying it and just putting myself out there and talking to people, asking questions, like being a student to find out who I am and how I can be in a position to do something to improve my situation. And it became my life's passion. I mean, I was fortunate that my husband was really understanding because I was married at the time. And because of the blessing of getting out of the chair and getting to the point where I felt aligned and I felt peace, I gave birth to my daughter. And for me, that's a huge, huge, huge miracle because on the time that I was in a wheelchair, I didn't see myself getting married and I didn't see myself having children. So my recovery, going through that process of finding myself spiritually, and I'll repeat that because that was really the pivotal point for me, connecting with, something to elevate my mind to understand that my limiting beliefs are here, but there's something larger and grander I can hold on to.
Ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so that led me to all, because I kept working, that led me to the people and the resources. Like I came across, like for instance, my husband got me a massage. I went to get a massage, and as the lady's giving me a massage, she's asking my feet because they're swollen. And she was like, do you see somebody for that? And I said, no, I don't. She gave me a card. Here, this doctor will see you. Don't worry about it. The insurance will take care of it. It was an acupuncturist, and turns out he was a medical doctor from China, and he was really good. I'm walking into the building to see him, and everybody's like, are you going to see him? Oh, he's excellent. He fixed my bag. Oh, you're going to see him? Oh, he's excellent. I couldn't walk, and look, I'm walking now. So it was like that's what I'm saying. Things were just happening. I would be focusing on this, but because of my diligence, the opportunities would just come in other areas.
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest takeaway. I mean, you put a lot of efforts. You go out there, you read books, you learn, you meet people. Yeah, so that's what also makes things happen. Diamond, what your current project now, or what you're excited about now?
Well, what I'm excited about is a program I'm putting together for veterans. I'm working with some people right now to get some third-party funding for it. But it's a program that targets veterans that are dealing with PTSD. And it's a 12-week coaching program because I'm a certified coach. And I'm looking to help them with the process. It's not about therapy. This is not to take away the therapy that they're probably receiving or aren't receiving, but this is not therapy. This is to supplement their journey. And basically the program is catering to that personal spiritual momentum that I discovered. And I wanted to share that with them. So no matter what their struggles are or whatever mental barrier within the traumatic experience of the PTSD, they can develop some momentum in a positive direction. So that program, I'm really excited about that. I don't have a launch date yet because we're dealing with some people for the funding. But if people want to go to my site to stay updated, if they know a family member or someone who's having a hard time and could use that kind of community of people that understand where they are, and so they definitely can just put their emails in, and as that information comes in, I will be updating them. And then there's another thing I'm excited about. I have a virtual summit that I'm putting together in October. And this is focusing, it's called the Creative Edge Summit. And this is focusing on that left brain, right brain connection. And when I achieved my healing in terms of me walking again and breaking all those barriers, I felt so free. And all I wanted to do was just to improve myself. So I started researching and reading books, and I studied, and I did actually a training on right brain education. And that's all basically just talking about how most people, and I wish I had the percentage to tell you right now, but most people are left-handed, right? Are right-handed. Yeah. And if you're right-handed, that means that's coming from the left side of the brain. Now, it doesn't mean that people who are left brain dominant don't use the right. They do. But there's a lot of character traits that the left brain has that the world kind of caters to. The world is not a right-handed world. It's a left-handed world. So because of that, it caters to the way people think on the left side. And so the training I did is how to develop the right side so that you can create a whole brain experience. And here's why that's awesome. Because on the left side, you're focusing on sequential numbers and logic, and there is no emotion behind it, and there is no visual behind it. It's mostly just numbers and figures. But the right side has spatial awareness, and there's pictures. You deal off of pictures, like you process information through pictures. That's where speed reading comes from, and photographic memory comes from, and memory in most cases. So when you bring those things together, not only can you retain information, problem solving is at another level. And then this is off of, there's a lot of research behind this, and it started with Dr. Ornstein in I believe it was in the 60s with Dr. Sperry, and they made the discovery of the traits that stem from what side of the brain. And so my passion project for that is having that conversation and letting people know that things are changing. This is now becoming the creative age. It's no longer industrial age where a lot of things are routine and numbers and handling it in a way where it's where computers can now do. Now it's about discovery, innovation, creativity, and that's the left, that's the right side, but not the right side alone, because we still need that left to bring order. Because a person who was extremely right brain dominant, you'll notice that they're a bit scatterbrained because that's not on that side of the brain. But bringing that awareness of that people can get their left brain, train it to work with the right brain and be at the full creative potential in that way. That's what I'm bringing people together. And I can't really talk about the speakers right now because I'm in the process of confirming them. But we have I have a great lineup of speakers. I'm really excited to have them in a discussion back to back. It's going to be about 21 speakers. And it's going to be virtually, so I'll definitely update you if you want to plug it. And it's free. It's all free. Information's all free. It's just my mission to get the awareness out there that once they break that mental barriers, there's like unlimited potential. That they can achieve anything.
Wow, so great! So excited for October.
Yes.
All right, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Wow. Sitting in a chair with Tony Robbins and Oprah Winfrey somewhere, having a conversation. Because I see their passion, I see their hearts, and I feel like I share that. I share that energy, and I just want to do so much. And I would love to have their ear so I can find out how I can do more.
Yeah, I was blown away. Recently, Tony Robbins' documentary was launched, right? I'm Not Your Guru. And he started early in the morning preparing for the sessions, discussing who are the people who are we have a concern, what are their concern, what we should watch out for them. I didn't know that actually that there's so much going on behind the scene. I'm so impressed that actually they don't just he has done this many times. He could just maybe breeze through it or wing it, but he discussed it, go over and over again with his team, morning before the event and evening before the event. That's just wow.
That's incredible passion. That's incredible passion. Yeah. And if you permit me to make one big point about what I went through, and I got to say, there's a difference between. And I got this from my pastor actually, but it was a huge nugget. So I wanted to share with you. There's a difference between preference and conviction. So many people want things. Like you could probably see somebody in a chair. Now I don't know their situation because everybody's different. Yep. Maybe they want to get out of the chair, but as soon as they hit a roadblock or they're told something, they kind of give up. They believe it. They accept it, and it's the difference between a preference and a conviction. Like if you're convicted, it doesn't matter what you're thrown. You're going to still go at it because you want it that bad. But if it's a preference, it doesn't matter how bad you want it. If you hit an obstacle and you make the choice to not pursue it, then it was not really a conviction. It's a preference. That was a huge nugget that he shared because so many people, they want to do this, they want to do that. Understand if you can easily waver, then maybe it's not a conviction, and then trying to find out how to make it a conviction. I think that would be the exciting part of a journey to explore.
Yeah. You gotta want it as bad as you want air.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You read a lot of books. Tell us, maybe share with us some of the books you would recommend the listeners to read and why.
Okay, well, I would have to say by Joel Osteen. He has a book called Breakout. Mm-hmm. And that book created my mindset for quantum leaping, like creating that kind of momentum that will propel you in a level that you don't qualify for, but because you want it that bad and you're willing to do the work and you're connected spiritually, you can be there. Like going through that book, I have to say that gave me my mindset a quantum leap, going from having all these limiting beliefs and dealing with all that stuff, but then believing that I can be elevated. And I could tell you, what happened for me is within 1 year, I made a list of things, and within 1 year, I realized everything on that list. And that's from the statement that I was talking about from Napoleon Hill. And it was because of that mindset with that book. So that was a major impact for me. Then that's Breakout by Joel Osteen. The other book was by Jack, I believe is Cantor. He wrote the book Success Principles.
Jack Canfield.
I'm sorry, Canfield, yes.
Yes, Success Principle, yes.
Yes. That was the first book that let me know, you know what? Your life is your responsibility. It's no one else's fault that you're where you're at. And I have a quote that I actually put on my website because I say that it may not be your fault where you are, but it's your responsibility to do something about it, defy your odds. Because that's the message I got from his book. Because he lays out all the success principles that you can apply, but just letting you know that your life is really in your hands and you can do something about it, that was powerful. So that was my biggest takeaway from it.
Yeah, I guess it really relates to when you take control, it gives power to you that you are in control rather than giving the power to somebody or anything else like situations or financial situations or somebody who hurts you, whatever. So taking the responsibility as well as the power back to you.
Right.
And talking about your website, I read this, be courageous. So what's that your definitions of courage?
My definition of courage, I think, is the same for me for bravery. I say that bravery is not the absence of fear, is just being relentless no matter what. So for me, courage is having fear and doing it anyway.
Well, indeed. So thank you, Diamond. I really enjoy our conversations. I think we learn a lot from this, from your steps of aligning yourself from your spiritual, emotional, and also then physicals, and also how you are, just like you said now, relentless, keep on pushing, finding resources, connecting with peoples to make what your visions into reality. Thank you, and thank you for being such an inspirational person.
Thank you for having me, and I love your podcast.
Thank you.